You know them today as one of the most valuable companies in the world, employing hundreds of thousands of people and selling pretty much anything you could possibly need. But have you ever wondered how exactly Amazon got started? In this story, we're going to be taking a look at Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, and his journey to becoming a multi-billionaire. So if you want to find out how Amazon went from an online bookstore to billions, then stay tuned till the end. It's 1994, and Jeff Bezos is working as an executive at a large financial company. He earns a great salary, but he's not satisfied. In his spare time, he runs his own website, which he uses to share information about the auto industry. But he wants more. And after watching a TED Talk about the growth of the internet, he realizes that this is where the opportunity lies. But while the internet has become a big thing in the early 90s, it's still a relatively niche hobby. However, something else catches his attention. That year, the New York Times published an article about the growth of online shopping. And just like the internet, e-commerce is still a niche market, but it's growing fast. And so he starts thinking about starting his own business. At first, he considers the auto industry because it's familiar to him. But he realizes that there are already lots of large players in this space, meaning that it would be difficult for a new company to break through. So instead, he looks for a different sector to enter. And this is when he discovers a new opportunity. The book industry is ripe for disruption. There were several big players like Barnes & Noble, but none of them had embraced the internet yet. And so this is the industry that Jeff decides to go for. But before jumping into it, he spends some time doing research. He sends emails to over 200 publishers to ask if they would sell books online if he created a platform for them. And the answer is yes, they're all in. But there is one problem. It's not that easy to get the books from the publishers to the customers. So he comes up with a solution. He will buy the books himself and store them in warehouses. Then he'll sell them online and deliver them to the customers himself. And this way, each publisher doesn't have to deal with building their own website or worrying about shipping. They can just list their books on his website and he'll take care of the rest. So, in July 1995, Jeff resigns from his job at the bank and focuses on his new idea. Now, even though he's quitting his job to focus on this, he still needs money to start the company. And luckily, he knows just the person to ask. His wife, Mackenzie, was a well-known novelist, and she agreed to invest all the money they had into the company. Together, they drove to Delaware, where they incorporated the company and named it Cot. When Jeff told his parents about the name of his new company, they thought it sounded like a funeral home and suggested a different name, Amazon. The name stuck, and the company was renamed to Amazon.com. Now that he had the money and the domain name, it was time to build a website. But for this, he needed help. Luckily, his friend from college was a web designer, and he agreed to help him. They built the website and listed books for sale, but there was one problem. It didn't look professional. Jeff wanted to make sure that the site looked legit. And for this, he needed a logo. Luckily, he found a graphic designer who was willing to design a logo for $250. And here's what she came up with. As you can see, it was a huge success. But in all seriousness, the logo wasn't perfect either. And so she offered to redesign it for free. This time, she came up with the logo that we know today. Now that everything was set, it was time to launch the website. But before that, Jeff wanted to do one more thing. He wanted to send out press releases to some journalists and get some hype around the launch. This worked out perfectly as one journalist picked up the story and published an article about the new online bookstore. And right when the website launched, all the articles went live. This generated tens of thousands of visitors on the first day, but only to book sales. Even though the traffic was high, it turned out that people didn't actually buy any books. This made Jeff realize that they hadn't done enough marketing, and that's why no one knew about the website. So he spent some time reaching out to book lovers online and asking them to try the service out. This also led to some media coverage, and slowly but surely, the company started to grow. But Jeff wanted to accelerate the growth by placing ads in magazines. For example, he placed an ad in Reader's Digest, which cost him $200,000. And this proved to be a good investment, as it brought in 1.3 million visitors to the website. Amazon started off strong, but it soon faced its first big challenge. Amazon had stored all of its inventory in a single warehouse, and one day a pipe burst and damaged thousands of books. Jeff realized that he couldn't keep all of his eggs in one basket and decided to rent a second warehouse. But something unexpected happened. The more warehouses he added, the lower his shipping costs became. It turned out that it was cheaper to ship a single order from multiple warehouses than from a single central location, and this led to a new business model called Prime. Prime would allow customers to get faster shipping times and eventually free shipping, and in return, customers would pay a yearly membership fee. While this increased revenue, it also increased expenses. But again, something unexpected happened. As more people signed up for Prime, shipping costs actually went down. You see, now that Amazon had multiple warehouses, they could negotiate lower prices with the shipping companies. This made Prime very profitable and gave Amazon a competitive advantage over other books. By 1998, they were the largest online bookseller in the U.S., and it seemed like things couldn't get any better. That year, they went public at $2 per share and raised $54 million. But unfortunately, this is where things took a turn. The dot-com bubble was coming to an end, and investors were hesitant to invest in internet companies. But Jeff wasn't worried. He knew that Amazon was fundamentally different from other internet companies. Unlike other internet companies that focused on cutting costs and maximizing profit, Amazon was willing to take losses in the short term for market share. In fact, they even lowered their prices to drive more sales. But this move angered some of their suppliers, especially the book publishers. They accused Amazon of selling their books below wholesale price and demanded that Amazon stop. But Jeff stood firm. He told the publishers that it was their choice whether they wanted to sell books through Amazon or not, but they wouldn't be able to control the prices. And this decision paid off. In 1999, Amazon became the largest online retailer in the world. But behind the scenes, things were looking bad. They had massive operating losses and cash was running out fast. In fact, they were burning through $1 million worth of cash every month. This led to speculation that the company would run out of cash by mid-2000, and to make things worse, the dot-com bubble burst. Investors panicked and sold their stocks, which caused the stock price to plummet. But even though the stock price fell, the panic didn't affect Jeff's vision. He continued to grow Amazon and introduce new services like Amazon Web Services, but these weren't as successful as retail. And it wasn't until 2006 that Amazon finally turned a profit. Since then, Amazon has grown to become one of the largest companies in the world. Today, Amazon has a market cap of over $1.7 trillion, and Jeff is worth an estimated $160 billion. But it hasn't all been smooth sailing. One of the biggest controversies surrounding Amazon is its labor practices. Many of its employees complain about being overworked and mistreated. There are even reports about Amazon's insane interview questions. Here are some of the questions they've asked in the past. Do you ever cry when you watch TV? If you could be any country in the world, which country would you be and why? And tell me about a time you felt. But regardless of what you think about Amazon, one thing's for sure, Jeff Bezos is a legend. We hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to leave a like. We'll see you in the next one.